thank you so much for coming. I know that you are a dancer and you are based in Barcelona,
Yes, that's right.
but you grew up in Kiev, in the Ukrainian capital.
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about that? What was it like to grow up in Kiev?
Yes, thank you for this question. I'm Ukrainian. I was born in 1991. Actually, it's the year when Ukraine became independent. So it's like this symbolic, year that my generation and younger, we are people that never lived under dictatorship. And, for me, it's important year. In terms of of our Ukrainian history. I was growing up here in Kiev. I was born in Kiev, in Ukrainian capital, and I was living there until it's like now I live in Barcelona for 5 years, so until 25. I was growing up in Kiev, and I was I don't know what to say because I always had a feeling that I'm growing in a free country, where we had this quite um, complicated times, in the 90s, because when we were growing up, my generation was growing up in the 90s in the post-Soviet crisis. And when I was coming back to Ukraine, and even before that, like maybe 10 years, I had this, kind of feeling of pride for my country. Yeah, because first of all, right now, culture in Ukraine is really, really developing. Yeah, and as I'm a dancer, I left Ukraine. It was my decision to leave Ukraine for a search of better opportunities in terms of dance that I do, because it's not that popular commercial dance that I'm doing is quite, rare thing. So I was looking for the opportunities to become better as an artist, travel the world, yeah, and become better. And I was always coming back to Kiev, to Ukraine, and I was observing my I don't know, friends, my colleagues in music industry and cultural industry who were like moving mountains, doing amazing job promoting the culture, promoting music, contemporary art, and things like this. And I can say that of course there is a big difference between when I was growing up there in 90s and, for example, last 10 years, especially after revolution of dignity in 2013. Yeah, that was, I think, also very important turning point in our history, where there was an uplift of national identity. Yeah, where, like in post-colonial context, where we became more conscious about who we are, more proud about who we are, and kind of building this identity that actually is helping us now to resist. Yeah, it's realizing who you are, not through the eyes of the colonizer, of dominant culture, of dominant, this neighbor that we always had on our side. But very important, like I feel, especially 10 years, this uplift and things are moving. So of course, like 30 years is a long time, so there was a lot of changes in our country, in consciousness, also even in the language. Yeah, there were a lot of people who were speaking Russian. Now more and more people, young people, switching to Ukrainian deliberately, because one of the narratives of Russia that Putin is saving Russian speaking people in Ukraine. So now we all switching to Ukrainian, so nobody has any reason to save us, from anyone. So there is like kind of this beautiful uplift in national identity, and of course development of culture, music, and many other things, that beautiful things that are happening in Kiev, were happening just a month ago actually. So yeah, it's like that.
Yeah, you just visited Kiev in January, right?
Yes, I was there like nothing ago, like 2 months ago. Yeah.
And what about your friends, your artist friends that you were just talking about in Ukraine right now? What are their lives like? What do their lives look like at the moment?
Hmm. Well, it's tough at the moment, and of course, like most people I know are from Kiev, also from other big cities like Lviv, Odessa. and Dnipro. Yeah, I can't say I know artists in every city, yeah, in Ukraine, but the most artists who I know are from there. And well, right now everybody is finding their place in this war, what they can do, how they can help their country. One thing that I can proudly say about not only artists but our Ukrainian people in general, that we never give up and we never um, give up our country, our home, our our thing. Yeah, as you can see from the news, like this powerful resistance that is happening in Ukraine on every level, yeah, from small child to a soldier in armed forces of Ukraine. And artistic resistance is also part of that. Like, for example, a friend of mine who is an organizer of jazz festival there, it's called mi Jazz Festival, mi Jazz with interrogation mark. You can find it everywhere, in the social networks, and they have a website. So now they started initiative to help Ukrainian musicians. So they basically raising funds where everybody just can, make a donation, and everybody can help Ukrainian musicians in need now. Many Ukrainian musicians, as far as I know now, um, they are at the forefront. They are, some of them, helping with volunteering in different cities. Yes, someone in Kiev, some people moved to Lviv, yeah, to the west, because it's so far it's safer there. Although in Ukraine there is no safe place now, there is not any safe place in Ukraine, but one place can be safer than the other. Yeah, because you have to understand that we, even how we perceive this war, how we're talking about this war, and what we're saying, I mean, we Ukrainians, depends on where we are. For example, person in Mariupol who is now, like, you know about situation in Mariupol, that it's on the verge of humanitarian catastrophe. It's occupied. People are killed, raped, fusilated, starved to death, and these things have to be said because this is what is really happening. And other people, for example, like in other cities that are not that exposed to the military actions, of course they're safer, but it's also safer doesn't mean it's calmer. Like, anxiety is anxiety, and everybody are affected. Musicians are not playing gigs, now. I've seen a video of my really good friend Denis Adu, the trumpet player. Like, they were playing on the square in Lviv just to raise the spirit, of people, of volunteers who were, doing like making food, or like bringing supplies for others, because also Ukrainian people, we have this trait that we can be arguing with each other, for years. We can have a lot of misunderstandings, but as soon as we have common enemy who threatens our thing, everybody gets united. And this is like a superpower that I have been observing in 2013 in Revolution of Dignity, and now with this war, what is happening, that people are extremely united. Everybody helps everybody. And like, we even have this meme now of saying that when you ask me how is my family now is 47 million. So like, this kind of unity is very beautiful. And musicians now, and dancers, I mean, of course they can do their job. um, I don't know if everybody can practice, because it's not that easy to practice when you have sirens and airstrike, alarms and things like this. Some people left Ukraine, but those people who left Ukraine, and those artists, movers, dancers, and musicians, that mood that I can see among them is that they do not take advantage of this situation to move, I don't know, to Europe, that now generously opens their arms to us, which is like, a big privilege, in fact. Yeah. And many of them say that, okay, I don't want to move far, because actually I want to come back as soon as possible when it's over. So it's not about taking advantage even. One thing is, like, when you decided to immigrate, like me, for example, I took this decision many years ago, but I was always coming back to Kiev, this or that way. So just actually in April, I was about to go to Ukraine to a festival. When there is a festival happening, like, for example, we have these amazing festivals, like there is techno scene that is amazing in Kiev. Sometimes even Kiev is called second Berlin, and things like this. So there is amazing cultural move, yeah, over there. And just in August, there was a Brave Factory Festival organized by center called Closer, and that was like I went to Ukraine to see my family, but also I was like I want to take advantage and to go to this festival because I've been trying many years, and I had schedule conflict because I was on tour, and because of of the pandemic I didn't have so much tours. So I was like, of course I'm going to Ukraine. And there was this amazing rave, and music and culture just booming. And like Virgil Abloh was playing in Kiev, like just in August, just before he died, and everybody was like, happy. And I mean, I was always saying before the war to my friends here in Barcelona, they were asking, "Oh, what's going on there?" I say, "Look at this festival, we have to go." And everybody's like, "Yeah, it looks like we all have to go, Alina, and stay at your place, and and see what's going on, like the culture." So that was is this vibe, you know. So right now, I can see some of the dancers, for example. I see their stories and their Instagram updates, which I'm very happy that they're updating, actually, that they're not closing inside themselves, that they're sharing, the stories, how they live. For example, a friend of mine, I mean, I'll keep it anonymous for safety reasons, okay? So a friend of mine is volunteering. They, with her boyfriend, for example, they take supplies like food, and they help disabled people, or they help older people if they need food or something, because one thing is when we're young and we can run from bomb shelter to bomb shelter. Another thing is like when you're not that movable, so this is another tragedy of that. So people taking care of people in this sense, do you need anything? Okay, I can't take the gun and go to the forefront. Then what do you need? Do you need food? Do you need water? Do you need maybe some medicine? Also, volunteers are really cool. They're really, really nice there. And right now I organized my initiative here in Barcelona that actually grew to international format because many people reached out who are online, including from United States, from Japan. And we started fundraiser called Artists for Ukraine Barcelona, but it's world. So we started this fundraiser to raise money, and I decided that I want to particularly send money to medicaments, to some tactics, strategic medicine of first aid, because at war you can't be just everywhere. You can't be at the forefront, you can't be cooking and fighting at the same time. What we learned already from this war is that everybody has their own role. So you better focus on one thing and keep doing your job good in there in that kind of thing. I realized like what advantage, for example, I can take if I'm here. Yeah, because of course psychologists now talk about this thing as guilt. Like when you are safer than your peers on the forefront, you feel guilt. And it's not only me here in Barcelona. People who are in more or less safer places in Ukraine, they also feel this guilt, like I'm here safe and other people are dying, so it's this thing. But if we look at it like how we can cope with that is that we can be useful in some ways. For example, what privilege I have been here that my friends and my colleagues there don't have. Yeah, at least I can dance, which is actually for me a healing power, and I never canceled any of my classes because I need to maintain myself also to be able to help my country. Yeah, so and if people support that, it's already a big move to help also Ukraine. And we organize the fundraisers where we can actually attract people by dancing. When you say donate, maybe not everybody donates, but when you say okay, let's make something, and you donate, so at least your money that you pay for a class, they go for some good purpose. So we kind of raised this initiative and raising money to send it to volunteers who are directly in Kiev, and they're taking care of the medicine. Because first what I did was from first two events, we raised some money, and I made an order on Amazon, like with tourniquets and first aid, like masks, oxygen, like all these things, adhesives, like for the wounds, so things that you normally need if you're wounded. Yeah, but it took a while, so Amazon delivers it here. Then it took a while that I bring it to the to the point from where they repart this humanitarian aid. They drive to Krakow in Poland, and from Poland they take a train to to Lviv on the west of Ukraine, and then they repart it according to needs. But this takes time, and also the customs, it's also a process. So then I thought maybe I can have a faster way, to for these supplies to get. So I thought I will just send money to volunteers who are in Kiev, and they work really good. They work really fast. They get medicines that, for example, you can't get without the prescription, including for people with diabetes, with diagnoses that are complicated, that you need expensive and not that accessible, easily accessible drugs. Yeah, so this thing, and I know that they're on spot. They know better what they need. So what they need is money. What army needs is weapons, to protect themselves. And for this, like, we do all we can. So yeah, so everybody does their own job. Musicians now, I've seen, they also volunteer. Those who are like strong, they carry things, they help to unload the trucks. So it's just like that, that there is no even no dialogue about let's make a concert, or let's make class or something. Like those diaspora, Ukrainian diaspora people, activated like on third day. I've seen this, musicians in Canada, in Germany, everywhere where I know Ukrainian musicians live, they activated and they're like, let's make something. So it's basically help with money from here, but they're at the forefront, and all my support goes to those people who are there at the forefront. Also, what is interesting that many women didn't leave. Like some women left, but some women, because we have mobilization, men who are able to fight, yeah, they are mobilized. So you can't leave the country. You can't just immigrate to Europe or somewhere else. So and many men, what is interesting, they don't want to, because they're like, we are patriots, and we will be here, we will wait for our turn to be useful. Many friends of mine went to this group that is called Territorial Defense. It's like a military group that appeared because civilian people want to protect their villages, cities, and their land. So in territorial defense, they have a huge line of people. They have huge reserves of people, because they say, listen, people, there is no work for all of you, So, but everybody wants, to actually fight. So this is what I see, and this is what I see is beautiful, uplifting spirit. And also, not many women left. Some women I've seen, they're wearing like uniform, and some of them with guns, because it's not for every person who they give the gun. Of course, it's not every person who can be admitted to territorial defense, because sometimes I see comments in the internet that say that everybody condemns that they give guns to civilians, but it's not that easy. It's very much like a careful procedure, to get. So women also don't leave their boyfriends. This is the beautiful thing. What I see, that they're volunteering or something, because they say, no, my boyfriend is 30 years old and he can't leave and he wants to fight, and I'm staying with him. I want to support him. So this kind of thing is happening.
So, thank you so much for all these details. I also was wondering on Sunday, you were talking about how you're getting your information about
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine, and you're using networks or channels that perhaps not everybody has access to. Can you speak to us about how you're getting your information?
Yes, sure. Well, first of all, I'm getting my information through mm, through Ukrainian channels, because if something happens, we are first to know, obviously. And there is an important thing that our government was saying, our government that we actually really trust right now, and they're showing really good job in spite of like nuances that, of course, at war, no war is perfect and no fight is perfect. But there was one thing that happened that during this war, government became really close to people. You can go to our, president's consular Facebook page where he's posting some, including jokes, to uplift the spirit and everything. And you can leave a comment and he will reply to you. So it's like this kind of connection. So we really trust governmental channels here, and also our television doesn't have this aggressive propaganda that, for example, in Russia is notorious for that. Yeah. And our government, like just yesterday, I was listening to the speech of the chancellor, and he said that in the very first day we decided no propaganda, we will only tell the truth to the people, so they face the reality, and the sooner that they learn how to deal with it, the better. Yeah. So basically, I follow all the official channels of the president, of the Supreme Council, yeah, of Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. Also leaders, like politicians and Councillor Alexei Arestovich. Also there is a 24/7 marathon that Ukrainian channels, they have united to create one single marathon that you can watch online. But it's in Ukrainian. You see, it's not translated into any other language. It's in Ukrainian. But at least, like, if you go there, it's called TSN, news. If you go there, you can at least see the picture. So there is like channels of Ukrainian TV channels. They basically go one by one and they take shifts and they basically work. Also, there is a channel that called Suspilne, and if I'm not mistaken, they also have English version, Suspilne News. So Suspilne, and also, like, you can see different channels in Instagram. It's called With Ukraine. Recently, I have seen that there are volunteers who actually translate into different languages of the world what is going on. I think I posted it in my Instagram. It's called Ukrainer.s, something like this, to Spanish. And there was also this Ukrainer to another languages. So they basically post this. But we live in 21st century where we can have automatic translation, even if you don't understand Ukrainian, and if it's written, you can follow this. You can follow Facebook updates of our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dmytro Kuleba, who is updating, also on things about the negotiations, about the diplomatic news and so on. So they are normally the fastest, yeah, because our government is the most informed about what is happening in our country. So yeah, also we have Telegram channels. Like Telegram resistance is really powerful, including that there is app for Ukrainians, so they receive notifications about the air raid strikes and alerts. So like if you have sirens, or if you don't hear the sirens, you have notification, so you go to the bombshell. Yeah, so this is pretty fast, and volunteers are really amazing in this sense because they react really fast and they create what is needed for the people. So yeah, and in Telegram, all these above mentioned channels are having their updates. So first week of the war, I wasn't sleeping at all because I had all these notifications on, because I was like, I wanted to know what's going on, and like I was barely falling asleep. In 4 minutes I received notification and I wake up, even if it's like something that I won't be able to change. Well, there is airstrike siren in Kiev, but I can't do anything about this. But I was anxious because my friends, my family there, and I just was like in my phone every 3 minutes, checking. Like I think my phone was like growing from my hand all this time. But yeah, it's mostly this, the like live updates. Of course, if you, for example, have access, like people in Europe and in the United States, and people who don't speak Ukrainian, for example, yeah, there are translations. But also I would really recommend you to follow real people in Instagram, in follow artists, follow cultural organizations that are now mobilizing and using their platforms to inform. I can also, like, I don't know, you can follow my channel. Also, I'm reposting everything that I can, that I find useful. Yeah, and if you know people from Ukraine, ask them or check on them or look at their social media, because often people really post, like volunteers for example that I'm donating money to, they post photos with what they got, what medicine they bought, and also they post, how they feel, which is important. Yeah, and other people post like, oh, today was relatively quiet, we woke up, we did this, we did that. So they're describing their day, which is like a lot of information for me to understand like how they're maintaining, how they're keeping up. For example, my good friends in Kiev, they called Squad 17B. It's very interesting, like, I don't know how to call, bar, squat, cafe, restaurant. Like, they started from small squat in the center of Kiev. There was abandoned building and they just created, like a summer bar, like inside, like between the abandoned buildings, like in the very heart of Kiev. And then they grew up, and just this summer when I was in Kiev, I was this August and then I was in January. So this summer they opened indoor bar, amazing, beautiful, interior design, like food, which is like a mix of different cuisines, including Eastern, and everything, like cocktails, very high class,